In the glittering world of gemstones, few treasures carry the weight of whispered curses and blood-stained legacies like the Black Orlov Diamond. Also called the Eye of Brahma, this brooding black gem has left a trail of misery, betrayal, and death that stretches across centuries and continents. Unlike diamonds that sparkle in royal crowns or glimmer in museum cases with a history of wealth and celebration, the Black Orlov seems to have been born not to adorn, but to destroy. Its story, shrouded in mystery, begins not in the salons of Europe or the auction houses of New York, but in the sacred temples of India, where legend claims a single act of theft unleashed a darkness that no amount of light has ever been able to dispel. The tale begins in the 19th century, in a land where superstition and faith walked hand in hand. In Pondicherry, India, stood an ancient shrine dedicated to the Hindu god Brahma, the creator. Within this temple rested a stone unlike any other, a 195-carat uncut black diamond that glittered with a dull and otherworldly sheen. The faithful believed the gem was the very Eye of Brahma, a divine relic meant to protect the balance of the world. For centuries, it sat undisturbed, venerated, and feared. But history has a way of testing the sacred, and greed has always been a more powerful force than reverence. One night, in the waning years of the 1800s, the gem vanished. The temple priest discovered the Eye of Brahma had been stolen, pried from its resting place. To them, it was not merely theft, but blasphemy of the highest order. Whoever dared to lay hands upon the eye of a god had invited divine wrath upon themselves, and upon all who would ever touch the stone. Here the threads of legend and history begin to entwine. Some accounts suggest the thief was an unnamed monk, once devoted to the service of the temple, who betrayed his vows and fled with the diamond into the night. Others whisper that colonial fortune seekers had paid him handsomely, desiring the rare stone for themselves. What is certain is that from this moment, the Eye of Brahma was transformed into what the Western world would come to call the Black Orlov, and the curse began its long, bloody journey. If this tale of a sacred gem stolen from the hands of the gods intrigues you already, then make sure you subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into history's darkest mysteries. And let us know in the comments, do you believe that objects can carry curses, or are they just convenient explanations for human misfortune? We love hearing your thoughts. The diamond resurfaced years later, far from the land where it was born. By the early 20th century, the Black Orlov had entered the shadowy network of gem traders and collectors who thrived in the markets of Europe. It was here, in the salons of Paris and the auction houses of London, that whispers of the stone's darkness began to spread. It was unlike the clear, brilliant diamonds that dazzled in crowns and engagement rings. Instead, its surface absorbed light, gleaming with a dark, almost menacing beauty. Collectors were drawn to it precisely because it was strange, unique, and shrouded in legend. One of the earliest known Western owners of the Black Orlov was a Russian noblewoman, Princess Nadia Vyachenorlov. From her name, the diamond would take its European title. Princess Nadia was a woman of influence and taste in St. Petersburg society. Her soirees were frequented by the aristocracy, her jewels envied by the glittering court. But for all her wealth, she was not immune to the darkness the diamond carried. In the 1910s, Nadia was seen wearing the stone proudly at gatherings. By 1917, as the fires of revolution swept across Russia, her fortunes collapsed. Accounts diverge here. Some claim she fled into exile with the stone, while others whisper that she leapt from a building in St. Petersburg, the diamond around her neck. Her life ended in despair. Whether by political tragedy or personal doom, her fate would be echoed again, and again by others who came to possess the Black Orlov. Princess Leonila Galitzine-Beryatinsky, another Russian aristocrat, is also said to have worn the stone. Her fate, too, was grim. In one account, she leapt to her death from a building in Rome. In another, she was ruined financially, her family scattered, her name lost to history. The details blur as time passes, but what remains consistent is the pattern. Women of wealth and power who adorned themselves with a diamond soon met destruction. These deaths were not isolated. They were whispered about in hushed tones by gem traders and aristocrats alike. The Black Orlov became not just a jewel, but a shadow that moved silently through the courts of Europe, bringing ruin wherever it appeared. Its legend grew, a cursed diamond, stolen from the eye of a god, destined to feed upon the lives of those who dare to claim it. By the 1930s, the stone had traveled to the United States, where it caught the attention of one of the most famous diamond dealers of the time, J.W. Paris. In New York City, Paris was a respected figure, dealing in rare and valuable stones. The Black Orlov was among his acquisitions, and he displayed it proudly, its dark fire drawing both fascination and unease. But in 1932, just weeks after arranging the stone sale, J.W. Paris walked to the roof of a Manhattan skyscraper and jumped to his death. Those who knew him were shocked. To those familiar with the diamond's legend, the explanation was clear. The curse had claimed another victim. If this story is already giving you chills, share with a friend who loves dark mysteries. And don't forget to hit that like button to support our work. It helps us bring you more stories like this one. Now, let's continue deeper into the twisted path of the Black Orlov Diamond. What makes this diamond so unnerving is not just a string of tragedies, but the eerie way they repeat across time. Owners and wearers of the stone seem to meet the same fate: financial ruin, despair, and death, often by their own hands. In psychological terms, one might dismiss it as coincidence, a string of unrelated tragedies magnified by superstition. But when you examine the chain of events, the pattern is undeniable, and the weight of legend becomes impossible to ignore. As the Black Orlov passed from hand to hand, gemologists attempted to study it. Unlike colorless diamonds, this stone was opaque, its black hue created by countless inclusions of graphite within its structure. Some argue that the diamond's unusual composition made it unlucky in the marketplace. Others leaned into its legend, marketing it not only as a rare gem, but as a cursed object, irresistible precisely because of the fear it inspired. By the mid-20th century, the Black Orlov's reputation was firmly established. Its trail of misery stretched from the temples of India to the courts of Russia, to the skyscrapers of Manhattan. But even more disturbing stories were yet to unfold, for the diamond seemed determined to write its curse into every new chapter of its journey. The years after J.W. Paris's tragic fall cemented the Black Orlov's reputation as a diamond of death. Dealers whispered about it in private, reluctant to touch it, yet drawn to its dark beauty like moths to flame. In auction houses, its appearance caused both excitement and unease. Some saw opportunity, others saw doom. The curse was no longer a legend whispered by temple priests in India. It was now written in the blood of aristocrats and merchants across 2 continents. By the late 1930s, the diamond found its way back into European circles. War clouds were gathering over the continent, and the glitter of wealth often masked deepening shadows. Among those who became entangled with the Black Orlov was a gem dealer of Italian descent, whose name, lost to the official records, appears only in scattered accounts of time. He was said to have worn the diamond on a chain, boasting that curses meant nothing to a man of science. Within months, his business collapsed. Rumors swirled that he had been caught in financial fraud, but others whispered that ruin had simply followed the stone as surely as night follows day. It was during this same period that the legend of the diamond began to attract the attention of journalists and mystery writers. In the smoky back rooms of New York and London clubs, men spoke of the Eye of Brahma, claiming that those who looked into its black depths too long felt a strange unease, as if the stone was not reflecting light, but absorbing life itself. Such accounts may sound like fiction, but they fed into the aura that made the diamond both infamous and irresistible. Then came another death, one that would mirror the tragedy of Princess Nadia decades earlier. A woman identified as a former Russian noble, who had survived exile and found refuge in Paris, leapt from the roof of her apartment after receiving the stone as a gift from a former lover. The pattern could no longer be ignored. Women of wealth and beauty, men of business and ambition, all seemed to crumble under the diamond's dark influence. If you're listening to this and wondering whether you would dare to even touch the Black Orlov diamond, pause for a moment. Would you risk wearing it, knowing that so many before you had met such ends? Tell us in the comments below. We're fascinated by how many of you believe in curses, and how many dismiss them as coincidence. The trail of the diamond in the mid-20th century is difficult to follow. Records are fragmented, owners sometimes secretive. Some claim to have purchased it only to rid themselves of it quickly after experiencing misfortunes. Others refuse to even admit they possessed it, fearing that acknowledgement alone might bring disaster. But by the early 1940s, as war tore across Europe, the Black Orlov resurfaced once more, this time in the hands of a dealer who understood both the peril and the potential profit of such a stone. Charles F. Winson, a New York jeweler, acquired the diamond in the 1940s. Unlike those before him, Winson believed he could outwit the curse. He decided to take a bold step, one that combined commerce with superstition. He had the Black Orlov recut, originally a massive 195-carat stone. The diamond was cleaved and shaped into 3 separate gems, the largest weighing approximately 67 carats. Winson believed that by dividing the stone, he could divide the curse, diluting its malevolent power. It was a gamble rooted not only in financial interest, but in the belief that the stone's darkness might somehow be fractured, broken apart by human hands. Whether Winson was correct remains a subject of debate. What is undeniable is that the stone's aura of dread did not vanish. Instead, it became even more famous. Now mounted in a platinum brooch surrounded by smaller white diamonds, the Black Orlov traveled across the world as part of exhibitions, drawing crowds eager to glimpse the gem of misery. People stared into its depths, daring to feel the chill of centuries of legend pressing back at them. At the same time, rumors persisted. Some claimed Winson's decision to cut the stone had indeed saved him. He did not leap from a building, nor did he die under mysterious circumstances. Others pointed out that dividing the stone had not erased the tragedies already attached to its name. The curse, they argued, was not something that could be diluted. It was eternal, woven into the very carbon structure of the diamond itself. The Black Orlov became a paradox, both a public spectacle and a private terror. Celebrities and socialites occasionally wore it, but always with a hint of fear, as though daring fate to strike them next. Some claimed to feel dizzy when holding it. Others insisted that it carried with a heaviness, a sensation as if unseen eyes were watching. Skeptics laughed, dismissing it as imagination. But imagination, once seated by fear, can be as powerful as reality. By the 1960s, the diamond's fame had grown beyond collectors and jewelers. It entered the realm of popular culture, appearing in magazine features, whispered about in society gossip columns, and even inspiring fictional tales of cursed jewels in novels and films. It was no longer just an object of wealth, but a symbol of mankind's fascination with beauty tainted by death. But if the Black Orlov story had ended there, a cursed diamond displayed in museums, worn occasionally by the brave or the foolish, it might have faded into mere legend. Instead, its journey continued, and with it, the curse found new ways to make itself felt. One particularly chilling story comes from the 1970s, when the stone was reportedly loaned to a European actress for a gala event. She wore it proudly on the red carpet, cameras flashing as the black diamond glimmered at her throat. Within weeks, her career suffered a sudden decline. Rumors of scandal swirled. Contracts dissolved. By the end of the decade, she had disappeared from the public eye entirely, her name remembered only in gossip about the cursed gem she had dared to wear. If you're enjoying this descent into the darkness of the Black Orlov Diamond, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next part of this story. And share this with someone who loves tales where history and horror intertwine. Trust me, the deeper we go, the darker it gets. The diamond eventually made its way into the hands of private collectors once again, passed quietly from one to another. For some, it was an investment. For others, it was a dare. And for still others, it was a relic of power, an object not of beauty, but of fear. To own it was to hold history in your hand, to feel centuries of misery crystallized in a single stone. But possession of the Black Orlov was never without cost. While not every owner leapt from a building or fell into ruin, whispers of strange misfortunes followed wherever it went. Broken relationships, sudden illnesses, financial collapse. Coincidence? Perhaps. But as with all cursed objects, the power lies as much in belief as in fact. To understand the true grip of the Black Orlov, one must remember its origin story. Stolen from the eye of a god. To believers, this is not metaphor but fact. A diamond once sacred, desecrated by theft, now forever marked as an object of divine anger. And if that is true, then no human hand, not even that of a skilled jeweler with the sharpest tools, can break such a curse. The Black Orlov today still exists, its whereabouts known, its legends intact. It has been displayed in museums, loaned for exhibitions, admired under bright lights that do nothing to dispel the darkness within it. People gaze upon it with awe and unease, some laughing at the idea of a cursed jewel, others whispering prayers under their breath. And still, the question remains, how many lives has the diamond claimed? How many tragedies have been hidden, unreported, because owners feared admitting they had ever possessed it? And most disturbingly, what might the diamond still have in store for those who dare to claim it in the future? The strange magnetism of the Black Orlov is difficult to describe. Those who have seen it in person often remark that it is unlike any other diamond in the world. Where most stones dazzle with fire and brilliance, this one seems to drink in light, holding it captive in its depths. Under bright lamps, it gleams like polished coal, but with a depth that seems almost alive. Some describe it as hypnotic, others as unsettling. A few insist they felt watched when standing too close, as though the gem itself were an eye, unblinking and ancient. It is perhaps this unnatural allure that keeps drawing new owners despite the tales of death and ruin. In the 1980s, the stone was acquired by an American collector whose name was kept secret for years. Only fragments of the story have surfaced. Whispers that his family suffered a string of misfortunes soon after the purchase. A daughter lost in a car accident, a business deal that collapsed overnight, a home fire that destroyed priceless heirlooms. None of these events could be directly tied to the diamond, but those who knew the story of the Eye of Brahma did not hesitate to draw connections. By the end of the decade, the collector had quietly sold the gem, unwilling to risk further tragedy. The Black Orlov passed again into obscurity, hidden away in private vaults, glimpsed only occasionally when brought out for appraisal or trade. But even in silence, its legend grew. By the 1990s, journalists revisiting its history gave a chilling new title, The Gem of Misery. No longer simply the Eye of Brahma or the Black Orlov. It had become a symbol not just of death, but of suffering that seemed to ripple outward, touching not only owners but those around them. If this story has you unsettled, imagine being the one to hold the diamond in your hand, knowing the lives it has already consumed. Would you dare? Let us know in the comments. We're always fascinated to see who among our listeners would risk it all for beauty wrapped in darkness. In the modern era, the Black Orlov has been exhibited at institutions like the American Museum of Natural History in New York and the Natural History Museum in London. Behind glass, it appears tamed, just another specimen in the glittering world of rare gems. But even in these sterile settings, its legend is never far behind. Visitors lean closer, whispering about the curse, daring each other to touch the glass. Curators, when asked, smile politely and dismiss the stories as folklore. But privately, some admit they feel uneasy handling the stone, preferring to keep it locked away when not on display. One curious pattern has emerged in the diamond history. Its tragedies are most pronounced when it is worn, mounted on a necklace, displayed at the throat, or set into a brooch. It seems to come alive. When locked away, it grows quiet, biding its time. It is as if the gem craved proximity to human life, feeding on it, entwining itself with the fate of whoever dares to wear it. The most infamous example of this remains J.W. Paris in 1932, who displayed the diamond before leaping to his death. But he is far from the only one. Several women in the early 20th century who wore the stone met similar ends, leaping from buildings in acts of despair that mirrored each other too closely to be dismissed as coincidence. Some even leapt clutching the gem, as if unwilling to release it even as they surrendered their lives. Skeptics argue that the curse is nothing more than a human tendency to find patterns in tragedy. After all, history is littered with stories of wealthy individuals brought low by depression, financial collapse, or personal ruin. To them, the Black Orlov is simply a convenient scapegoat, a vessel into which we pour our fear of randomness. But believers point to the uncanny consistency of the pattern. The suicides, the financial collapses, the ruin of families, and insist that chance alone cannot explain it. And then there's the origin story, impossible to ignore. A sacred gem stolen from a god's temple. To the priests of Pondicherry, the curse was not a story but a certainty. They had warned that whoever desecrated the Eye of Brahma would suffer endless misery, and that misery would spread to all who touched it thereafter. Whether one views this as divine justice or human superstition, the result has been the same: a diamond whose name is forever linked with death. As the 21st century began, the Black Orlov resurfaced once again in auctions. It was displayed, admired, and photographed, its cursed reputation serving as a macabre selling point. Collectors, it seems, cannot resist the lure of danger. What is beauty without risk? What is rarity without a price? To own the Black Orlov is not merely to possess a diamond, but to hold in your hand a piece of living legend. For some, that allure outweighs the fear. But the curse has never truly faded. Even in recent decades, whispers of misfortune cling to those who deal with the stone. A gemologist who appraised it in the early 2000s was said to have suffered a sudden illness soon after. A security firm contracted to transport it reported accidents and equipment failures that plagued their work. Again, skeptics dismiss these as coincidences. Yet to those who know the diamond's history, such stories fit perfectly into its dark narrative. If you're still with us on this journey, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the final chapters of this chilling tale. And if you've already hit that like button, thank you. Your support helps us continue uncovering the mysteries history would rather forget. What remains most haunting about the Black Orlov is not just its trail of tragedies, but its unresolved fate. Unlike some cursed objects that vanish into obscurity, the diamond continues to exist, continues to be displayed, continues to tempt. It has not been buried, nor returned to any temple. It has not been destroyed. Instead, it sits waiting, passed from hand to hand, a curse in circulation, always seeking its next chapter. And perhaps that is the greatest horror of all. The story of the Black Orlov is not finished. The Black Orlov Diamond's modern journey is a strange blend of spectacle and silence. It surfaces for exhibitions, gleaming under bright museum lights, photographed thousands of times by visitors eager to capture a piece of its legend. And then, just as suddenly, it disappears again into private vaults, swallowed by shadows until the next unveiling. Each time it reappears, the old stories are retold. The temple theft, the suicides, the mysterious misfortunes, and each time a new generation of listeners shudders at the thought of such a curse surviving into the present day. One of the most unsettling aspects of the diamond is the way it seems to inspire obsession. Curators, journalists, collectors, many have admitted that once they began researching the Black Orlov, it became difficult to stop. Stories about it are scattered across decades, sometimes contradictory, often shrouded in rumor. Yet the more you dig, the more you feel pulled into its orbit, compelled to stitch together fragments of truth and legend into a coherent whole. It is as though the diamond does not merely curse its owners, but also ensnares the curiosity of anyone who dares to peer too deeply into its past. There are accounts, whispered but never confirmed, of museum staff who handled the diamond suffering personal misfortunes afterward. A man in London reportedly lost his wife in a sudden accident weeks after overseeing its display. A woman in New York, who worked in security for a private exhibition, was said to have endured a terrifying home invasion not long after the diamond was in her care. These stories are unverifiable, but they circulate nonetheless, adding fuel to the fire of the curse. And yet, the stone continues to be sought after. In an age where wealth often buys safety, where the rarest objects are locked away in bulletproof glass and monitored by cameras, the Black Orlov remains one of the few treasures that wealth cannot tame. Money can protect you from thieves, but it cannot shield you from a curse. If this story is unsettling you, that means you understand the power legends like this hold. Share this video with a friend who dares to laugh at curses, and see if they're still laughing when the story is done. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next chapter of this tale might just be darker than the last. Gemologists have tried to strip the Black Orlov of its supernatural cloak, studying it as a specimen rather than a relic of divine wrath. They point out its unusual structure, filled with inclusions that give its black color. They explain how such diamonds form deep within the earth, absorbing traces of graphite that render them opaque. To science, it is simply an unusual diamond, one of the largest black stones in existence. But even the most clinical reports cannot erase its history. You could describe the stone geology in perfect detail, and still, the suicides of its past owners echo louder than any technical explanation. And then there is the question of intent. If a curse exists, is it conscious? Does the Black Orlov somehow choose its victims, punishing arrogance and greed, sparing those who treat it with caution? Or is it blind, a force that spreads misery indiscriminately, indifferent to the lives it shatters? The story suggests both possibilities. The monk who first stole from the temple. His fate remains unknown, but many believe he was the curse's first victim. The noble women who leapt to their deaths. Were they punished for flaunting it? The jeweler J.W. Paris, who displayed it in New York before leaping from a skyscraper. Was his death the result of despair, or did the stone itself push him toward the edge? The answers may never be known. But one thing is certain. People who come too close to the Black Orlov often do not walk away unchanged. In recent years, the diamond has been auctioned more than once, each sale accompanied by a mix of excitement and fear. Auctioneers play up the legend, knowing that the curse makes the stone more famous, more valuable. Bidders approach with caution, some openly admitting that they would never wear it, only keep it locked away. Others grin nervously, as though daring the curse to touch them. The bids climb, millions of dollars exchanged for a gem that carries not only beauty, but the weight of death. The irony is unavoidable. The curse that should repel buyers instead enhances the stone's allure. To own the Black Orlov is to own not just a diamond, but a story, one that has been told and retold for over a century. And in the world of rare gems, sometimes the story is more valuable than the stone itself. If you followed this story so far, ask yourself, would you pay millions for a gem that might cost you your life? Tell us in the comments below, because your answer says more about you than you realize. There is one more angle to consider, one that blurs the line between legend and psychology. Belief itself can be dangerous. If someone truly believes they are cursed, the weight of that belief can erode their mind, pushing them toward despair and ruin. Psychologists call this the nocebo effect, the dark twin of placebo, where fear and expectation manifest real harm. Could be that the Black Orlov Diamond kills not through divine punishment, but through the terror it inspires? If you believe you are doomed, perhaps doom will find you. But even this explanation does not fully account for the uncanny pattern. Too many owners have fallen in too similar a fashion. Too many stories end with the same tragic descent from high windows and rooftops. Coincidence strains under the weight of repetition. And so the curse endures beyond science, beyond reason, an indelible part of the Black Orlov's identity. Today, the diamond sits in relative quiet, its current owner known only to a few. It has been displayed, admired, even worn in public. Yet the curse has not vanished. It lingers, waiting. Whether it will claim another victim tomorrow or a century from now, no one can say. But those who know its story do not doubt that the gem of misery is not finished. The Black Orlov Diamond's legend endures not because it is beautiful, but because it refuses to be tamed by time. Most cursed objects fade into obscurity, their stories forgotten, their power diminished as generations move on. But the gem of misery has clung to relevance, resurfacing again and again, each time dragging with it the same old whispers of death. What is perhaps most unnerving is the way history seems to repeat itself. The aristocrats who leapt from windows in the early 20th century mirror the jeweler who jumped from a Manhattan skyscraper. The pattern stretches across continents and decades, as if the diamond insists on writing the same ending over and over again. When owners change, the tragedy changes only in location and circumstance, never in kind. It is as though the diamond itself is bound to a script that cannot be rewritten. And yet, people continue to seek it. Why? Perhaps it is the allure of forbidden beauty. Perhaps it is a thrill of daring fate. Or perhaps it is something darker, a hunger in the human heart to touch death without dying, to feel the edge of the abyss while still holding on to life. The Black Orlov offers exactly that, a chance to flirt with doom, to wear around your neck and hear strangers whisper about curses as you smile in defiance. If you're watching this right now, pause for a moment. Imagine the diamond resting in your palm. Heavy, cold, dark. Would you wear it to a gala, knowing the stories attached to it? Or would you lock it away, terrified of what it might do? Tell us below, because every answer tells us how you see fate, as myth or as danger. The diamond has also become a mirror for the age in which it exists. In the 19th century, it was a stolen relic, a symbol of colonial greed and sacrilege. In the early 20th century, it was a jewel of aristocracy, tied to the downfall of families and empires. In America, it became a symbol of ambition and sudden despair. In the modern era, it has become a museum piece, its curse transformed into spectacle. Each time it reappears, it adapts, slipping into the fears and fascinations of time. Yet the core of its story never changes. Misery follows. Death follows. Always. And then there is the unanswered question that lingers over the diamond's entire history. What if it had never been stolen? If the gem had remained in the Temple of Brahma, untouched, uncut, undisturbed, would the world ever have heard its name? Or would it still rest there, revered as sacred, its dark glow seen only in candlelight by the faithful? Perhaps the curse was not born of the stone itself, but the human hand that tore it from its divine setting. Perhaps the misery does not belong to the diamond at all, but to us. The present owner of the Black Orlov remains cloaked in secrecy, but it is believed the diamond has changed hands multiple times in recent decades, always privately, always quietly. Unlike other famous stones, it is not flaunted regularly in public. Even wealthy collectors who purchase it seem reluctant to display it often, as though fearing that too much exposure might wake something sleeping inside. And yet, no matter how carefully they guard it, the stories leak. A broken marriage here, a ruined fortune there, a life cut short in circumstances too tragic to ignore. No one is eager to link these events to the diamond openly, but those who follow its trail recognize a familiar pattern. It is tempting to dismiss all of this as coincidence, as a chain of unrelated misfortunes stitched together into a narrative by human imagination. But if that were the case, why does the Black Orlov's reputation persist when so many other so-called cursed objects have faded from memory? Why does this diamond, above all others, still inspire fear in those who hear its name? If this question fascinates you as much as it fascinates us, make sure you subscribe and join us for more stories where history and horror intertwine. And let us know in the comments, do you think curses are real, or are they just the stories we tell to explain the chaos of the world? The Black Orlov remains, to this day, one of the most enigmatic jewels on Earth. Scientists can describe its structure, historians can trace its path, collectors can lock it in vaults. But none of that removes the shadow that clings to it. It is a relic not just of geology, but of fear, greed, and tragedy. Whether you believe in curses or not, the diamond story forces you to confront a truth that is older than science itself. Some objects carry weight that cannot be measured, a presence that cannot be explained. And so, the gem of misery waits. Somewhere behind locked doors, it rests in velvet and steel. Silent, patient, watching. Perhaps the next owner will believe themselves immune. Perhaps they will wear it proudly, daring fate to touch them. And perhaps, as history has shown time and again, the diamond will write its story once more, in blood, in ruin, in misery, because the Black Orlov is not finished. Not yet. There is a certain unease that lingers when you speak of cursed objects. You may not believe in them. You may laugh and dismiss the stories as superstition, but still, something inside you stirs. A shiver at the thought, a whisper at the back of your mind. What if the Black Orlov Diamond is not unique in its reputation? History is littered with tales of jewels that brought ruin to their owners. The Hope Diamond, with its own string of tragedies. The Koh-i-Noor, said to bring misfortune to any man who dares to wear it. But among these cursed treasures, the Black Orlov stands apart, not because it is the largest nor the most valuable, but because its curse is so intimate, not the grand fall of empires, but the quiet unraveling of individuals. A woman's final step off a balcony. A jeweler's last breath on the pavement below a Manhattan skyscraper. A collector's silent despair as his fortunes collapse. It is a curse that operates not on the stage of nations, but in the lives of the people who dare to hold it. And perhaps that is what makes it so terrifying. Empires rise and fall, but death is always personal. To read of a queen losing her throne is history. To read of a woman leaping from a window is horror. If you are still with us on this journey, still staring into the black depths of this diamond story, then we invite you to pause and ask yourself, do you believe that objects can carry the weight of human suffering? Can misery crystallize into stone? Or are these just the stories we weave, trying to find meaning in chaos, trying to explain tragedy with something more tangible than chance? Tell us below. We read every comment, and we want to know where you stand, skeptic or believer. The Black Orlov itself does not answer. It does not need to. It sits silent and patient, in velvet and steel, its dark facets reflecting nothing but our own fears back at us. Those who own it rarely speak. Those who display it rarely linger. Those who wear it rarely last. It is not a stone that inspires joy. It does not sparkle with warmth or dazzle with fire. It is a stone that inspires dread. And yet, humans are drawn to it, as they have been for over a century. Drawn to the darkness, drawn to the edge of danger, drawn to the idea that beauty might also destroy. In the end, the Black Orlov Diamond is more than a gem. It is a story of theft, of death, of misery, a story that has survived across generations, continents, and cultures, a story that has claimed lives, destroyed fortunes, and unsettled countless more who have merely gazed upon it. And stories, unlike stones, never die. So the next time you find yourself in a museum, standing before a display case that holds a dark, gleaming jewel, ask yourself, are you looking at a diamond, or is the diamond looking back at you? If this tale has chilled you, if you walk with us through the long shadow of the Black Orlov Diamond and felt its weight, then make sure you subscribe to our channel, like this video, share it with someone who loves dark history, and join us for more journeys into the places where beauty and horror meet. Because as long as the Black Orlov exists, the story of the Gem of Misery will never truly end. And who knows, perhaps the next chapter will be written sooner than any of us dare to imagine.